How do you play Street Fighter like a pro? There's no mistaking Street Fighter's huge cultural imprint. The game has sold over 35 million copies, and it's raked in over $1 billion in quarters from arcades alone. On July 17th through 19th, it's once again headlining EVO, the huge fighting game tournament in Las Vegas, where we'll be treated to the best players from around the world laying the smackdown. It actually looks a little something like this. This game in the hands of experts is truly spectacular, but how do you get to the elite level that whips a mob of fans into a frenzy? On the surface, success seems to stem from knowing your character like the back of your hand and being really good at those half-circle fireball motions. But if you really want to be a pro, you need to dig a little bit deeper. What's going on inside the mind of an expert? What if I told you that the key to Street Fighter's brilliance is not the torrent of clashing fists, but instead the space surrounding the characters? Like brushstrokes of calligraphy, the secret lies in Ma, a Zen Buddhist term for the gap or negative space between two structural parts. As game designer David Serlin writes in Playing to Win, the best players are well aware of the nuance of positioning and fight hard for it. In fighting game terminology, this is what's known as spacing or zoning, and how you space or zone has everything to do with the stage layout. But what's so important about the stage? It's just a box, right? Well, unlike a real-life martial arts tournament, a match of Street Fighter takes place in 2 dimensions, and it can be spatially arranged in several different regions. The first division is by height. This is what's commonly known as aerials and the ground game. The ground is the domain of roundhouses, wind-up punches, jabs, sweeps, and sonic booms. And aerials are any attack you do while in the air, like a flying punch or a shoryuken. This splits play into 2 halves where both zones must be accounted for. It's like fighting a war on 2 different fronts. The second division is distance, where the screen is divvied up into roughly 5 parts. Fighters in Street Fighter are generally of the short, mid, or long range variety. These segments serve as guideposts to line up your attacks. For instance, Zangief with his arsenal of bear hugs wants to get close. Chun-Li's swift long legs excel at mid-range, and Dalsim with his Laffy Taffy arms is more comfortable across the room. The idea is to find a sweet spot that complements your air and ground game while nudging your opponent out of theirs. This makes the game spatially complex, like in Shogi, how the game flows between ideal positions for defense and attack. As the writer Arthur Kessler has said, when a chess player looks at the board, he does not see a static mosaic, but a magnetic field of forces charged with energy, which sounds a lot like M. Bison's Psycho Power. But that's still a bit abstract, right? How does this tango of good and bad space play out in an actual match? To find out, let's zoom in on the first 9 seconds of gameplay. And what better way to illustrate this than with a classic showdown, Ken versus Ryu.
I'm ready for you. Bring it on.
When the announcer says fight, our fighters are standing at equidistance in positions 2 and 4. Right now, they're a little bit too far apart to land a blow. Thus begins the playing of footsies, where both players are tentatively dancing on the edge of position 3, attempting to land a strike that will knock the other player back to the space where they want them. Say Ryu lands a sweep first. He will take a small step back into position 2, while Ken is carried by the momentum from the kick into position 4. Now he's in the perfect zone. From here, he has all the control, and Ken is kind of screwed. There are a couple options for Ryu, but a great one is a fireball because it keeps the pressure on Ken to react, and as you'll see, gives Ken few good options. 1, Ken can get hit by the fireball. If Ryu throws it at exactly the right time, it's unavoidable. It's what's known as a meaty fireball. 2, maybe Ken gets up and blocks it, taking a tiny bit of damage, but the fireball barrage will likely continue, draining his life bar. 3, Ken can counter with a fireball of his own. 4, if Ryu mistimes his fireball, Ken can leap straight up as the fireball sails underneath.
So happy together.
Or Ken can try and back out of the confrontation, but that will only bring him closer to being stuck in the corner, which is like Street Fighter purgatory. But in any case, he will be a step behind Ryu, who now has Ken under his thumb. Let's say Ken tries something radical and does a jump kick over the fireball towards Ryu. Seems like a good idea, right? But at this range, he's dead in the water, or air as it were, because Ryu is standing at exactly the right distance to pulverize him with a shoryuken. This would knock Ken back, and the whole situation would just repeat. However, the trap backfires if they're standing at the 2 and 4 neutral position when Ryu throws the fireball. That is too close, and Ken can connect with a flying foot to the face before Ryu has time to launch into a dragon punch. Voila! Of course, the game is way deeper than what I'm going into. We're just scratching the surface. There are all sorts of high-level techniques, and the game's huge cast of characters each vie for their own agendas with space. This hidden war over turf not only makes Street Fighter a great game, but it turns its players into artists who are performing principles of artistic composition, like balance and rhythm and movement and contrast. Or you can just play like me and button mash. Also a valid strategy. So what do you think? Have you ever used spacing or zoning techniques in Street Fighter, or do you notice them when you watch other people play? Hash it out in the comments, and if you like what you saw, please subscribe. Major props go out to Patrick Miller's ebook, From Masher to Master, which we used as a major source in creating this episode. If you found it interesting at all, you should check it out. We'll link to it in the description. I'll see you next week.